All right, traders, good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Christian from Hertz, Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Monday, June 1st, first day of the month. And it did feel like there was some first of the month flows. If you're not familiar with what that means, it means that, I really don't have a great explanation for it. But on the first trading day of the month, some big institutions, now these are more like your not your hedge funds, but more of like your insurance or your pension funds. For whatever reason, just for years and years, they like to buy on the first day of the month. It's just like the calendar rolls to the first day of the month. They don't care what's going on, and they go ahead and buy. It's been going on for years. So it's one of those contributing factors. I don't think it was responsible for all the day's moves today. But, the other line that I've got down here is growth names just remain, basically in fuego, right? We've seen a couple days where they've pulled back, like have had mini pullbacks, like we had one day last week, and there's just a lot of momentum in the market right now. And I think if you just take a look at some of these names, you'll see what I'm talking about. And this is one of those things too, where this is a name that I talked about and said, hey, this IPO name, newer name, has the look and feel of something that we've seen before. When one of these newer names, recent IPO names just catches fire, and that's what's going on with DraftKings right now. And you kind of look at this and you're thinking, well, there's no sports to bet on right now. So how is this name going up? And I think it's just a little bit symbolic of what we have right now in the market. There's a lot of momentum that, for whatever reason, is going into some names. Now, again, remember that the market is forward-looking, so eventually sports, all right, they're trying to work on baseball, they're trying to work on basketball, and nail down a couple other sports where you can bet on. And I do like this company. I think they have got a niche, right? They're the ones who are going to be capitalizing on sports betting, which is a huge industry. And also, the other way to think about it too is people are not going to want to go to as much. Some people are still going to want to go. I'm probably going to want to go to Vegas and so forth. But if you don't want to sit in a sports book in Vegas or in I don't know, Atlantic City or Macau, then you could bet online. So even though there's no sports, I think they've got a major niche right now. So this is a name I talked about a week ago. I said it had a nice look to it. I think I got involved in this one around like $34 or something like that. So I chased a little bit, and it's working out. But again, this is just one name. Also, we talked about this name, and I'm happy to send out our weekend videos. I put together 2 videos every weekend, right as it is now, which is kind of a lot. But the way I break it down for members, and it's a lot too for you guys to have to go through, but I do about 45-minute video on all the macro factors. I talk about overall positioning, I talk about sentiment, I talk about technicals in the indices, and then I spend another half hour, 40 minutes going through single name setups. And what I try to do with those setups is I talk about levels to watch, or I just talk about something like this that is breaking out. And I said, and I'll go through, I'm happy to post my video, but I said, watch the ZS. These names have a tendency to continue if they've been bottled up for a while, and there's some decent momentum in the market. These things can fly. And this thing was up another 12% today. So you're looking at a move from $75 up to 110 in 2 days. Very, very big moves. And this continued, in the other cyber names, which is arguably one of the hottest areas in the market, and it's been that way for the last couple weeks. So if you've happened to catch a couple of these names, great job to you. And we've certainly have been trying to do that as well. CrowdStrike has been my name in the space, and that's something that I positioned in. Keep in mind, because it's funny because I see these questions or comments on Twitter. And somebody said, which is a very valid point. They said, "Well, I hope CrowdStrike does the same thing," and I think they were kind of joking around too. But at this point, you're looking now. Look at the difference, and I think for some reason I feel like I've already went over this before. But ZS was bottled up, right? It had made a nice move off the lows, but it also did a lot of digestion. It basically went from 65 to 75, which is still a pretty good percentage move. But it spent about 2 weeks consolidating, and that's why I used the phrase bottled up. And then it went. So, do I think CrowdStrike could do the same thing? Anything is possible, but you have to put the market. I think it's a good example to go over because you have to put the market in a little bit of perspective. If you've been in this thing, as I have, from 64 bucks to 94, and I've been in options and I've been in stock in the name, and I'm just sitting with my last piece of stock. I did take a target today at $95, I think today. Where's my where's my exact number? Sorry, 92. I didn't take a target at 92. I took a target at 92, and I could take another one. My plan was to try to hold this all the way into the print, but at this point, right, you're dealing with, you're really like, if you're thinking something amazing is going to happen on earnings, again, it could happen, but the probability is less and less as it continues to climb into the number, right? We see that a lot of names with that will run into their earnings and then they may not do so much, right? An example, I will give you an example. NVIDIA, right? This thing ran up huge into the number. Now, it did still go up a little bit, but you kind of have to look at the path of what it did. So what we will do tomorrow for this name is I do want to participate, but I want to do it in as smallest amount of money as possible. So maybe I put on some type of upward call spread where I'm risking, a very small amount of money because the majority of the money for me has been made. We've played this in October options on the breakout from 64. So this move the last couple days is icing on the cake. Now, if you're looking to get anything else, I think it's fine to put on some type of an option call spread where you're looking for trying to get into a call spread like a $5 call spread for like $1.50, trying to make $4, or for a $5 wide call spread, something of that nature. But I think if you're really looking for much more than this, if it does it, that would be great, and I will have some exposure. But it's a really good exercise of risk versus reward. And I think, again, as I've talked about many many times, is just sit with the position going into earnings, because if you've done that, you don't even have to worry about the unknown event. Like, why bother? It's gone just in the last 3 days, 77 to 94. So what do you need to mess with the name for earnings on? Isn't that a better trade to get to make 77 to 94 in a couple days, and you don't even have to worry about the event? Because who knows what they could say, right? They could say something on the earnings call that could bring the stock down. So in any event, I think it's just a really good example to kind of go over. But if you look across this group, it is hot. The other one is Okta that reported. This thing dipped for all of about a few hours. I mean, look at the move that this thing made today, up 4.7%. Coupa, I saw more calls go up in Coupa. Again, it's tough. It is tough to position in a name that has been making such big moves. But I'll tell you, these names, you could have said it here, right? Oh, I don't want to buy it. It's extended. I'll wait for a pullback, right? I hear that so many times. Well, this was at 189. It's at 233 now. So, I continue to try to look for relative strength and look for pullbacks into support. Here's another example away from this group. And by the way, one other name is Fortinet too, which again pulled back a little bit. This is a good example of a name breaking out on earnings, going up a little bit further, and then coming down, finding support of the 20-day moving average, and then it's off to the races again, up to from 130 to 144. Really, really nice move there the last 3 days in FTNT. I wanted to show this example too, because I'll tell you when I bought this name. This is Boston Beer, which got another price target raise. But I added this into the Tribeca Trade Group tactical portfolio on the 4th of May. Right? So if you cover this up, right, and you look at this, right, on the 4th of, you're probably thinking, right, here was the stock. right here. So forget about all that stuff to the right and say, oh, geez, what are you doing chasing up a name? It's up to 459 and it was at 380. How could you put this name on after it's gone up so much? Well, right? Because was a very healthy move, but it broke out of a pretty sideways pattern. Even though this thing has been in a nice uptrend over the years, but I didn't catch it right on the first day or the second day. I caught it about a week later, up at 462. Horrible entry, horrible, right? It looks like I top ticked it. Well, look where it is now. It's up to 567. So these trends again. I try to kind of give you a sense of my methodology, which is trend following, because again, there's so many people that are anchored to they want a prediction on what's going to happen. Nobody would be able to predict that this thing's up to 567 in a month from where I entered this thing into 460. Right. So I hear that a lot. Like people do not stay in these trends long enough. They don't let their winners run. Now, again, at this point, I did not take a target on this thing today, which probably in hindsight I should have because it looks very extended. So I will have to do that. But because this is a decent place to take some money off the table. And that's just being smart. Again, I want to stay in this name, but might as well take some money off the table. Here was my entry in this trade, by the way, in case you think I'm not. If we go into our TTG portfolio, right? This was back on. So what did I add? I added CrowdStrike to the portfolio as well, right? So this is another portfolio. I added Tesla, and again, this was on May 5th. Right? I did delete a few things out of here. And I reduced a couple things going into earnings. I was long Shopify, which has continued to run, which is fine. But the ads, so this is due for another rebalance, by the way, our portfolio. And since it's moved over from motif to folio, I have not touched the thing. So at this point, I will probably be doing that tomorrow. All right, so what else? And by the way, the video is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. If you are looking to be a member, I'm happy to forward you, any information that you would like. But here's the list that we put together. Very nice. The S&P was up how much today? 37 basis points. How much was the Qs up today? 30 basis points. How much was our watch list that we put together over the weekend? Up 2.7%, and I equally weighted this, right? So there's no outlier. Every name has the same. But yeah, DraftKings. Peloton, I did not take this trade. There were so many good setups today. And I talked about this in Friday's video. I'm like, my goodness, it looks like, that there's a number of names that are just looking like they're going to break higher. But here's another one. Closed on the damn highs. I just, I didn't want to put on a ton of risk today because I do know it's the first day of the month, and there won't be a second day. Well, of course there will be a second day of the month, but not where it's not the same effect. So that's why I really try not to add too many positions, even though there's all kinds of momentum in the market, and I try to explain that today earlier in the trading room that, hey, I can't add 5 or 6 positions and do what I'm doing and manage all the positions. So I added a couple positions today, but this Peloton wasn't one of them. What I was looking for, and I always get questions, hey, how are you using the market webs? Well, once we break, I like to use the market webs on a break of the value area, which was 43. And then basically you go long. And it's, of course, this was a little bit challenging because it started the day right inside value. So you would have had to basically chase the name up once it broke value. Like, at that point, the name was up about 4%. But this was a name that we saw some positioning in on Friday. We saw January 2022 calls go up. But I think this still, over time, this is another name that's pretty well positioned. Notice how it filled the gap, by the way, last Wednesday. and is right back up there. So what did I play today? Autodesk. We started to see, this was a name that reported earnings last week. It just looked very unusual to me. And you could see one of the systems, I do use a bunch of systems at Tribeca Trade Group. Trade Alert for option flow, as well as Cheddar Flow, which is a nice addition. But you could see what they were doing today, right around 9:37 this morning. Something we just don't see a lot of aggressive option flow in a name like Autodesk, and they were going after it like 7 minutes. And basically, what I said, the first couple orders that I saw, I'm like, watch this Autodesk. And then once I saw like the third or fourth little order on the tape, then I said, okay, I'm going to participate in it. And you could see how this trade went. And this trade gave you some time today too. Like you didn't have to jump in. One of the things that I talk about a lot is that I don't like to chase names that we see option activity after a name's already up 4%. Well, this thing was up about 0.5% today. Look at where it closed, and it gave one of these things. You could have actually added to it and it got a better price than me. And I think some traders did that today in the room. But this was at, do I have it to 9:40? So I waited to 9:45. I was taking some targets and some other things and managing some positions. Our Tesla little trade that we put on Friday worked beautifully. Out for almost a double in Tesla. Tesla, like I said, I'm long stock in this one. But again, this is a good example too. This was one of our watch list names. Because what I liked about this, it was showing. So again, using another, just to help answer a question that I received a couple questions about how to use the value areas to trade. And look at this. So here's a great example. I didn't see this one. This VPOC was taken out here, guys. But this happened on Friday, right? And notice how the value area, the 1 hour value area, which helps me get into to find trades a lot of times. But we saw this on Friday. So we went over this in the weekend video. It's like deja vu for me. But this broke, right? For the last couple weeks, Tesla's been bottled up. All last week, it tried to rally here, failed. It tried to rally here, failed. And I told traders in the room, I said, wait for this 825 break. Well, we got it late in the day on Friday. And then look what happened. All right, so that is your trigger. So how this works in the room is once I see something like this, I set an alert just above value, and I think I did this at 825 on Friday. The alert goes off, and that's your key to enter the trade. If you like the name and if it's something that you've been entertaining. Now, this has made a move all the way up to this virgin point of control. So I get this question too. Okay, well, where do I want to take targets? And taking targets is really up to your opinion, right? It's up to your time frame. You may want to be in Tesla for a long time, but take a look at that. We've taken out that VPOC. So that's a place for me to take some profits, right? So I can do that in my stock position because I'm out of my option position. But it's gone up to 895. Now, it could still get through this. Right? It's done it before, but for me, it's a place to take some profits. Again, I don't have to take the whole trade off, but being that there's no VPOC, that's it. Which is a good thing. If it could get to new highs, you actually want the name to get to new highs, because then you have open road, right? And then you have to manage it, based on, your own by basically having a trailing stop. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what this does tomorrow with this VPOC being taken out right at the close. I did not see that. I'm actually going to take a picture of that once I'm done with the video. So what else? Various other names were just. Look at this. This Slack finally got going. This has been a test of patience for a lot of people, right? Basically you got hit here and failed, got here and failed. Couldn't get through value here, and then basically spent the majority of May above value. It just really didn't have momentum to it, and then got going. So that was another name that I got out of today, 36.50. Maybe left some on the table. Again, it's one of those names that who cares what it does on earnings? Because it's made you plenty of money by holding it into the event. So another good example. Here's our, and I am out of Autodesk. I just took the gift today of seeing this thing with momentum today. What else did I do today? Did I take any other profits? Square is another name that I started. I think I talked about Square in Friday's video, public video as well. This thing is close. So again, using the value areas, it's close, and that's why I started a position. So again, see the difference? Like I'm okay like playing a little bit of the anticipation game. So I started a position in this one, especially because I even said the name still needs to break through value. So it did do that, but it's got to stay above 82. All right. And then, of course, this game is about management, right? Here's my Bloomberg appearance from earlier. I was on Bloomberg just talking about a little bit about the market and the VIX, as well as Sony, which was another trade idea. You could go ahead and watch that video on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, just when everything is going up like this, and it becomes a little bit easy, it's just a reminder to take some profits. And I even said, I'm not afraid to admit it. This price action is not exactly normal to see this type of momentum kick up like this without any type of meaningful pullback. So I will continue. So the game plan, is to continue with this momentum, even though I think the market, psychologically, right, or mentally, I think this market is getting over the tips of its skis. We know sentiment is super hot, right? When we talk about things like the city, and I've talked. This has been the story now for 3 weeks that this thing is this hot, right? And I think everybody knows this market in the growth names is super hot. But I will continue to try to have some exposure to it. It's something that we talked about in the macro video. But meanwhile, not getting overexposed here. That's the name of the game. Continue to participate while this market is acting nutty, but try not to get overly, too exposed at this point in the game. All right, because there's no sell signal, right? You could try to anticipate a sell signal, but there's just no sell signal in the market. I don't see any sell signal in the S&P, the Qs, any of these places yet. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. There's plenty of other things to talk about because just like Friday was an incredible day. It's another incredible day. So make sure you're taking these gifts and locking some away. We talked about that in the member video as well. Some strategy and ways to do that, which I won't go through here. That was for members. All right, guys, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.